Welcome to the Made in Iowa podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Fox. In the studio today, we have Reynolds Cramer. You might know him as the CEO of Fareway. Today, we get to know him as the chair of the Workforce Development Committee for the DOGE task force that Governor Reynolds put together to examine government efficiency for the state of Iowa. We hear his perspective on how workforce development is going in our state and some of the advice that he has for the legislature as we enter this legislative session. Stay tuned, share with your friends, live from the Iowa Everywhere studio. Welcome to the studio, Reynolds Cramer. I have got in the studio with me today the CEO of Fareway, and Reynolds took on a huge responsibility this past year in really looking into the efficiency and productivity of workforce development across the state through the DOGE group. And what in heaven's name were you thinking when you got into this? Because it's a little bit divisive.
For sure. And good morning. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I think, when people hear the word DOGE, there's a little confusion at first. What is it exactly? Is this that thing that was out, in D.C.?
There's a little Elon
Musk going,
associated with it.
Just closing big departments and, making immediate changes and things like that. Of course, you did hear about some things that were a little goofy, when you hear maybe the truth about what's happening, in a department or an area of the government. And I think Governor Reynolds made it clear that, we've been doing DOGE in Iowa for a long time.
Yep.
But this was an official committee put together, a task force, if you will. And, once again, that can be, there could be a little bit of fear and stress with that word from people thinking, well, what's the purpose? Is there an agenda? Is there some secret meaning to the why and the how? And I think at the end of the day, the people that were asked to be on this task force, first off, volunteers, not getting paid, not taking time to work together, and the whole intent was to come back with a report that simply said, hey, we see a few areas that we should probably dive into deeper into the future. Once again, our task was not to, find a problem, create a solution, execute that solution, and move forward. It was just evaluate, look at things. Is there something that rises to the top that looks like, hey, this seems funny, maybe there's an opportunity here? And I'd also say that I don't think it was about, hey, let's just find a way to save money.
Right.
I really looked at it, and right or wrong, the way I looked at it was, if we're going to spend a certain amount of money to do something, are we doing it efficiently?
Love it.
And I do that every day at work.
Right.
So I think really that was probably part of the reason I was chosen.
Well, and I look at the esteemed group that you hung with while you were on this committee. Emily Schmidt with Sukup Manufacturing, Nick Bowdish with Elite Octane, Brianne Schulte with Vermeer. You've got people from the University of Iowa. You've got county folks, which is great. Terry Lutz with McClure Engineering. He chaired one of the committees, correct?
Yes.
We've got Beth Tinsman with Twin State Technical Services. Kathy Kay, Principal Financial Group. She chaired your technology work group. Ryan Schapp, Well Enterprises. Iowa State University. Joe Murphy with the Iowa Business Council. Mark Campbell, who is a Webster County Supervisor. House of Representatives, and the Iowa Senate. So you actually had legislators on the committee with you.
Right. It was a very diverse group, a great group of people. On my committee, David from Iowa State, Brianne from Vermeer, Joe Murphy with the Iowa Business Council. We had a really fun group. We had a great group, and so Now, it could be said that perhaps we could have even had more diversity on that group. There could have been even, more from all sides of the table.
Sure.
I think that's really important. When I think about making decisions, I always want to have the smartest people around the table. And I don't care, what party they're from. I don't care what side they're on. None of that matters. I just want the smartest people around the room. And then you're going to walk out of the room, and two things will happen. Either A, you will not have come to a conclusion or an answer or a solution because you couldn't do it together.
Right.
Or you're going to walk away from that table and you've accomplished the mission, and probably nobody's super happy with the result because they didn't get everything they wanted. But isn't that the way it's supposed to work? So my only comment is I think we could have probably had a little bit more of all parties involved in this. But once again, it wasn't my choice. And that's okay. I think we did a good job overall.
All right, let's talk about the overall mission. So the Governor's DOGE Task Force shall expand on what Iowa has previously done to focus on the core function of government and reduce the cost of government at all levels. And then the purpose was to successfully improve effectiveness and efficiency at all levels. And she goes on to say, maximizing return on taxpayer investment, further refining Iowa's workforce and job training programs, and leveraging technology.
Right. So the last three things you said had to do with our three different committees. And I think there was some confusion on that too. Probably most people thought that everybody, all three committees, the technology, the return on investment, and workforce committees, all got together every week, every other week. We all talked, we all discussed things. That wasn't the case. So I was chair of the Workforce Development Committee, and our committee got together every week. Majority, 90% of the time was just, virtually. But we got together and we discussed what we were talking about. The only time that I really knew what Terry and his group with return on investment was doing, or Kathy with her group with technology, was there were 3 times that we got together in person. One, I was out of state. I didn't make that one, but the other 2. And, that you're talking about an hour together, and everyone is really just giving their report of what they're working on, an update, so everybody kind of has a sense of it. So some of the things that came out that kind of, were hand grenades that went off. I remember, and I could tell you the story a little bit about it, but some of it was a surprise to myself and our committee.
Really?
We didn't know about some of it. And so I think the misunderstanding with a lot of people was that they just assumed that I was a part of everything that was done, and that wasn't the case. And so, there was one topic, and
we could probably say it.
You could say it.
I can say it. IPERS. You say the word, and the entire state gets up in arms.
I will say, though, that I have a much better understanding of IPERS because I've done a lot of research since all that came out. I sat down with many people and had discussions because I wanted to learn. I'd heard about IPERS. I've not been a teacher. I knew it was some type of retirement program, and I knew there was a bunch of money in a fund. But why would I be researching that? And so, just to give you an idea, there was an individual in the state that came out with a web page or a Facebook page or something, and basically attacked me and my family. And
oh my gosh,
that was when I figured out that, oh my goodness, something's going on here. What's the problem? And I've had a lot of people say to me, you got on this committee, you knew that there were risks and you were going to have to take some heat. And I'm like, yeah, and I can do that easy. Anyone that knows me, that's not a problem.
Right.
But when you post my little boy's picture on the webpage, our home address, phone numbers, emails, all these things, and you say boycott and do all this stuff. I mean, have you overstepped your bounds? Now, we could go down this wormhole in our society about how people do things, right?
It's terrible.
I think to myself that, when someone does something or something happens to someone, you can have your personal opinion and your thought in your mind. The question is do you say something?
Right.
Do you speak out loud about that? I remember being taught by my parents, some things you don't say, you might think, you just move on. In fact, there was a tragedy yesterday. I think it was Rob Reiner, the film and just a tragedy.
The vitriol that followed.
And then to hear certain people talk like they did, I don't get that.
I don't either.
When someone has been devastated, a family's been devastated, you give your condolences and you move on. And so getting back to our situation, I was kind of thrown in the middle of this big IPERS thing, and I was trying to tell people, hold on a second. Our committee never discussed it once. I don't even know what exactly the recommendation is. We were learning too.
Right.
I went from my normal hundreds of emails a day to thousands of emails.
You're kidding.
And letters and all these things. And, I decided to just have a response, kind of a candid response back. And I got a lot of responses back to that saying, oh, we didn't know. We read something on the internet and we assumed it to be true, like everything else that happens in life. And then once they found out that, myself and our committee weren't a part of that, we're very apologetic. And then, of course, some people actually said, I don't care about that,
Reynolds, I had this conversation yesterday. I had the activities directors from Northwest in Waukee. I live in Waukee. And the Waukee Northwest game is tonight.
Okay.
And they were talking about how they are preaching both schools civility. And the challenge today is you don't just go have a game and walk away and everything disappears. The vitriol and the just hatred lives on in social media, and it doesn't die, and it builds and builds. And that's the risk of leaders like you stepping into important roles like this that can help define the future of the state and make us better.
Well, there's a lot of areas in our government, if you will, if it's a local mayor or a city council person or a state representative, on and on. Probably a lot of really great qualified people pass because they just don't want all of that.
Right.
Because people overstep their bounds. You mentioned high school, a game, and what you see sometimes and read about happens. If it's a student striking a referee or a parent yelling at a referee, why are we struggling getting referees at all sports? Because people are like, why should I just be pelted with insults and sometimes physical and all these things? So you're right. From a respect standpoint, I try and teach my little one who's into sports just the idea of winning with dignity, losing with respect, and handling all of that. And you can be upset because you lost, but you don't do some of the things that some are doing. And why is that? What is who's not helping those young people understand the right way? And what's going on in Australia? It's Australia, right? With the social media ban. Wow, that's awesome. Please, 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 leaders in this country, let's talk about this.
Right.
Because, there's something to be said about being a certain age and being responsible enough to deal with certain things in life. But having been through some things with my own kids, school systems, suicide, things going on because someone tweets something or does something and then someone, oh my goodness, has a reaction and then it's a terrible reaction. because quite honestly, they're probably not mature enough to deal with the situation. We got to stop this.
We have to stop this. Let's take this a step further. You were selected for the DOGE committee because of your leadership in so many locations across the country. How many states are you in now?
So Fareway's in 7 states, which is kind of crazy. If you think back to the 90s, we were just in the state of Iowa, and so 7 states now, and we're going to be in 2026 we'll hit 150 stores. We're really close. In fact, tonight we open up in Granger. We do the ribbon cutting at 5 p.m. tonight for our new store in Granger, which is really exciting. We've opened up 3 stores actually in the last 2 months, so it's been a busy.
A little crazy.
Great town of Eldora was a rebuild, brand new store in Bayshore, Kansas, and then now Granger. So it's been really fun. But yeah, we're close to 14,000 employees as a company. I think we're the 5th largest private employer in Iowa. And
wow.
So, and a lot of it's kids, right? We have so many great kids from 14 to 18 that we hire in high school, and it's really fun.
Let's talk about the workforce and the gaps that you see and anything that you learned while putting this report together that could inform a more efficient, more well-equipped workforce.
Well, once again, being a part of the workforce committee, we talked a lot about things that honestly I've been having discussions about for quite a few years. And when you think about the idea that I'm also on the Iowa Business Council, which is some of the largest companies in Iowa that get together, and there hasn't been a meeting ever that we haven't spent an hour or more talking about workforce. And so if it's people at Vermeer or Pella Windows, Fareway, et cetera, everyone's talking about workforce because we all need workers.
Right.
And of course, you've got the savior AI coming in that's going to solve all the problems, right?
Doesn't do a lot in a grocery store.
Yeah, I know AI bagging the groceries. I don't know about that.
I don't know.
Now, could there be robots doing other things one day? Definitely, I think that will happen.
Yeah, you can have them pick and.
But I think what's unique about the Midwest in general versus the 2 coasts is that we're very family oriented in the Midwest, people oriented. People enjoy to see and talk to people, so that's never going to go away. But technology will help efficiencies and do things, but the people factor will never go away. So as we discuss workforce, what was really interesting and intriguing to me was learning on the DOGE committee was that we spend hundreds of millions of dollars, somewhere in the near $400 million a year in workforce development programs. It could be said that well over $100 million of that is an admin expense. Once again, we could nitpick on the exact number, but the question really comes down to is, are the dollars that are being used right now for workforce development, are they being used efficiently and in the best way? And this is what's so crazy to me is, as a leader of a major company, and you could talk to Pella or Vermeer too, they would say the same thing. None of us get asked about those dollars and how they're being spent. So what's going on is Fareway, as an example, we're spending dollars on workforce development, internships, externships, different things, trying to do upscaling, different things, but we're spending our money. Now, somebody could say, well, yeah, you should spend your own money doing that. What I'd like to do is see how we tie that in with the money that the state's spending, and can we do it better? And so at the end of the day, what we want to see is kids graduating from high school, graduating from community colleges, graduating from universities in the state of Iowa, and then getting a job in the state of Iowa and staying here, raising a family, et cetera, working through their career, but helping this economy and this state grow. That's really the goal. And if that happens, then most of us as a company will say that our workforce lacking will be solved, at least for the most part. But what happens, as you know, is we have a day like the past few days where it's 20 below zero. No one thinks Iowa's great to maybe live in and raise a family in. I question
my sanity on a daily basis during the winter.
So people leave and they check out the beaches or the coasts or different things. But if we could somehow have an idea that this is the place to start your career, because there are such amazing companies, and there are. The state of Iowa has amazing companies.
Oh my gosh.
That do amazing things. In fact, lots of times when you hear about where does this come from, where's this created, who's working on this, people don't have any idea that it's coming from Iowa a lot of times.
Well, and even the parts that go into the larger, we do so much subcontracting on manufacturing that it would make your head spin.
Right.
Our products are in everything, literally. Let's talk really quick about, I tell this story a lot on the podcast. By 2030, they're saying that 240,000 seniors will be leaving the workforce. That's 12% of our current workforce. I would imagine that you're feeling that even worse in rural locations. Fareway's in a good amount of rural mid-America, right?
Right.
What are you doing from a workforce perspective to make sure you are intentional with retaining your employees that you've currently got and recruiting the ones that really have a passion for what you do and would fit well in your culture?
Yeah, so this is not new. However, some of the data that's coming out is perhaps new to some and in the understanding of it. Now, what is data? Well, it's information that we feel really secure that it's real. You can take a look at what's going to happen in 2030 with the seniors leaving the workforce, as you mentioned. You can look at who's entering the workforce. You can look at population trends in Iowa. You can look at rural Iowa trends. All these things, these are good data points. If you crunch those numbers and you look 5, 10, 20 years down the road, you can kind of hypothesize where we're going to be as a workforce, as a state. And it doesn't look great in some areas. Other areas look good. I mean, the Des Moines is going to continue to grow, right? People are going to come here. That's great for Des Moines. But yeah, some of these other towns, one of the things that was brought up, once again, not in my group, I heard about it also, and I got to think maybe it makes some sense, is the 99 county thing.
Right.
Now, I don't think it was said that we're going to drop to 80 counties and change all that. I think what was said was there might be 2 counties next to each other they're going to share services and not have 2 offices of the same thing.
So smart. Like school districts have done.
Exactly. And that, I think, was part of the governor's stance was, what do we see? What can we do? That, to me, makes sense. Once again, I do that every day in business. Most people do. They're always looking at efficiency. How can they do something? But when you look at rural Iowa and you look at, once again, how to get people into the workforce, this has been a mission I've been on personally for, like I said, at least 5 years.
Wow.
The idea of how do you go to schools, how do you go to 7th graders, as an example, and start giving them an opportunity to see what is it like to be a plumber or an electrician or work at Fareway or do other things. How can we do more of showing kids coming up through school, so by the time they get to go to perhaps a community college or a university, they already have a sense of maybe what they like, what they want to try. I don't know about you, but when I went to college, I really didn't know exactly what I wanted to do right away. In fact, most people didn't.
Reynolds, I was an acting major.
Okay. So you
in
go
Iowa.
Yeah, so you go to school and you're like, well, I'm going to school because I'm supposed to go to school, I guess.
Right.
And I'm going to take some classes and I'm going to kind of figure this out as I go through school. And I think our goal is to try and get kids to see way before that. And once again, over the last few years, this has been attempted and going on, and people are doing different things. Talk about Emily Wasuka. We talked about putting together I don't know if I want to use the word school, but an area up in Ames that you could come in and spend a day with a plumber and see what they do and have a little workstation and go through things. right now, I think the value proposition with schooling after high school has changed completely,
Me too.
right? So, Rob Dempson at DMAC,
Yeah.
that he's done such an amazing job with his team.
Yep.
And he's just retiring. He's well deserved to retire. He's done an amazing job. But DMAC's really built something over the years that in my opinion, it's different than it was.
Right.
There are a lot of great schools and universities out there. There's some that are struggling. And once again, the whole intent is, how do we give the opportunity to students earlier in life to see what they might or might not want to do, and in turn, keep them here? So I know of people that if you want to become a plumber, they'll put you through the schooling, they'll pay for it, you'll work with them once you get your certificates, all the things you got to do.
Right. And
you'll make, $80,000 or more, have a great schedule. Have you ever tried to get a plumber to your house?
Oh, it's horrible.
Well, it's hard, right? Right?
They're unavailable.
And so
there aren't enough.
What a great opportunity for someone that says, I really don't want to go to a university.
Yeah.
But I want to, spend time and raise a family and work certain hours and do certain things and get paid well. That opportunity's here. The question is are we bragging about that enough? Are we showing kids that enough? Are we working with the school systems enough to get it accomplished? And I think, once again, that was a lot of our discussions.
Well, I will tell you, Rob Denson thought differently than a lot of educators. I remember having a conversation with him probably 15, 20 years ago about his clients, his customers. I always assumed his customers were his students. He looked at me and he said, Lisa, my customers are the employers. The students are my product.
Yeah, he's right. He's right on target.
Duh. And if all educators thought that way and partnered with their local employers to help them envision a pathway, a career within that organization, I think we'd be a lot better off.
And I'm gonna tag on to that.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of great conversations on our committee. We met weekly with different groups. We met with community college leaders, and we had great discussions. We asked questions. We wanted to understand what they were thinking. We wanted to give them thoughts about what we were thinking, and trying to figure out are the dollars once again being spent the most efficient way. I don't think I could be a teacher, because I don't think that I would probably have what it takes to be a teacher, because
I don't have the patience.
To be a teacher, you got to have a lot of really awesome, pieces to the puzzle to get it done. I have the utmost respect for the people that go and teach our kids every day at all different levels. Now, saying that, I think it is important to say that, whereas, once again, I personally do not want to do away with IPERS at all. Wasn't ever a thought. I think at times what also gets people a little bit out of sorts is when you just bring up having a discussion about something. Should we ever look at, and let's pick on IPERS, should we ever look at IPERS and say, hey, is it being run the most efficient way?
Can we save the employer money
could we do
on
something?
fees? Something.
Well, some people might say, don't ever even talk about it. Well, I think that's wrong. I think we should always be looking at everything. It doesn't mean we're going to make a change. It means what we're really trying to do is come away and say, we're doing it right.
Right.
And we've just evaluated it again, and we're checking all the boxes, and it's working. Versus we never look at something, and then things get a little sideways. And you're hearing about this all the time in our country, about programs and things and getting sideways. Minnesota's got a little problem right now going on. It's one thing if you lose, $100,000 somewhere. When you're losing millions and millions and you're not sure. And I think let's go back to Fareway. So of all of our store managers and our market managers, Geneseo, Illinois, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Bayshore, Kansas, Algona, Iowa. They all get up every day and go to their stores, and they go in with the attitude that, hey, they have some autonomy to do some things, make some decisions. And then they also will read an email from the corporate office that says, we also want you to do this today.
Right. Because
we think this will be helpful to you. So there's a balance there between that. I got to think that that mindset needs to be utilized at government too. And I think, once again, some of the things I've learned through being on the DOGE task force is that whereas if we're going to rank Iowa and the other states, I think Iowa's ranked pretty high in efficiency and doing things right. But there's still some areas that aren't perfect. And so, we always need to be looking at things. And I think the easy part for me is I can make a decision at Fareway. I can say, all right, we're not going to wear white shirts anymore. We're going to wear red polos. And then I send that email out, and that was a great one. Everyone goes, woohoo, that's great, right? It's easy to do one of those. But I made that decision, and it happened. We know in government that's not necessarily the case all the time. You got to get a lot of people around the table, and you got to figure it out, and then hopefully move forward. But
and I don't know if you've heard, but our governor is not running again.
Well, yes.
That represents some challenges in sustaining this DOGE report and ensuring that the action items get accomplished.
Right. The good news is that Governor Reynolds has been looking through the report. We're very hopeful she's going to pick out a few things to say, let's start to tackle this right away. Some of it be with some legislative help. Some of it doesn't need to be. But it'll be really important to me. I can't speak for the other chairs of the committees, but to me and our committee, that the minute the next governor is in place, I'll get a meeting and talk about, there's a report. We don't want this to be wasted, so please take a look at it, go through it, and let's pick out a few things, and let's create new groups to go and tackle those things. And if we can make our state better by doing so, if we can make sure that the money that everyone pays into the state with their taxes gets utilized efficiently, that'll be a good thing.
All right. When this episode releases, the legislative session is beginning next week. What do you say to our legislators and our state leaders about the importance of the findings and how they can step alongside you and the committee to actually affect change?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is they should take some time to make sure they get a chance to go through and read through things. Things that jump out at them, that's the items that I think are the low-hanging fruit, the easier ones to go after. And they should be asking questions about, okay, who and how and what does it look like to go take it the next step further. So we were really fortunate to be the first step, right? So I feel like I got to go to Fareway. I had, you ever seen the supermarket sweep where you got 30 seconds to grab as much as you can?
Yes.
So we were given 30 seconds to go down the aisles and grab as many things as we thought needed to maybe be looked at. Not necessarily saying they're wrong, but let's look at these to see if we're doing it the best way we can with the dollars. And I literally got down 4 aisles, then I ran over the freezer aisle, I grabbed 2 things, and then I grabbed a pizza and I threw it in there. And boom, that's all we had for time, right? We didn't get a chance to look at everything. We couldn't. But we grabbed the things we thought made the most sense. And now I go up to the check stand, and all the items get sacked in a sack, and they're waiting in a cart with one of our friendly courtesy people to take it out to the car.
This is a great analogy.
And the car is the legislative group, the government, who's in charge, to say, we've got this cart of groceries, please pull them out of the sack and look at them. Because I don't get to do that. That's not what my task is anymore.
Right.
So I'm going to go and I'm going to push that cart into some people's legs softly and say, hey, please take a look at this.
Nudge, nudge.
And then from there, if they want more advice or thoughts, I'm happy to do it. So is everyone on the committee. But probably need to get some experts around the table of those certain specific topics to really dive in and say, oh my goodness, we could save $40 million, making up a number right now, and do it differently. And once again, I'm gonna say this again. I don't think it's ever been about, hey, we got to spend less money. It's about the money we're spending it. Are we doing it the most efficient way and the best way? Are we giving a return to the taxpayers for what they're investing in our state?
You mentioned $400 million spent on workforce development initiatives across the state. You also mentioned off air before we turned on the mics that employers really don't have a say in where that money goes. We are a representative government. Every citizen has an opportunity to have conversations with their legislators and to influence change. What do you say to everybody that's listening right now about workforce development and how they can step alongside our community colleges, our high schools, even our middle schools to partner and really create a pathway for our kids to prosper and thrive?
Well, I think everyone needs to have a voice and talk about, especially business owners, small business, medium business, large business. We had a virtual meeting one day with people like that all different sizes to get opinions too. Everyone needs a voice in how workforce development is being approached, the dollars that are being spent, what's happening with that. As an example, we found that there's no workforce dollars going toward anything to do with nursing.
Really?
Now, my understanding was that we had a nursing shortage in this state. That's a pretty important area.
Right.
So what can we be doing there to be helpful in some way, shape, or form? These are just one of the examples. But once again, I think it goes back to really good conversations and also this. Once again, in my opinion, our school systems, and let's look at our high schools. We got some amazing high schools out there doing a great job.
Yep.
Many of them are trying to look at how to get a student into the workforce in the future, and they're doing it the way they're doing it. We really need to come up with one or two ways that everyone works together and does it together in the same premise. Because if you look at Boone, Iowa, they have the EDGE program. It's a really awesome program that was created. We were part of that a little bit too. Fareway was, and yet maybe Gilbert isn't utilizing the EDGE program. They're doing their own type of program. When you're in the same vicinity, you should all be trying to tie in together in some way. Now, I get it. Well, we think ours is better. We think, we do it better. But to me, that's probably one of the things that is difficult in not accomplishing the goal, is that we got a lot of people trying to create, they're baking a cake and everybody's using a little bit of different ingredients and it's going to come out looking a little different. And that's okay if you're selling cakes. But if you're selling students to workforce, you want to try and make that a little bit more similar. So how to get that accomplished? I don't know if I have the answer for that. I
think it's a partnership, Reynolds. I really do believe that our employer groups need to get more involved in education. And I think the educators are craving it. I really do think they want to provide a product that is successful and makes our society hum. I work a lot out at the Apex program in Waukee. Very similar story.
And a great superintendent I just read is going to retire.
He's not retiring. He's going to the Iowa Association of School Boards.
Okay.
He's going to run that, which will be great.
But I guess from his role. But okay.
Yeah.
But he's awesome.
He's amazing. And I interviewed one of his teachers out at their Apex program who'd been in construction, They moved him into the automotive program. He took the entire summer to go to Deary Brothers. He worked in the lube lane, and he was actually repairing cars all summer, so he understood what those students needed to understand and learn while they were in his classroom. Those are the types of teachers we need too.
What a great story, yeah.
Yeah, and he's amazing. Tyler Wright, you rock. But that's the type of partnership. And I think in almost every case, if these employers reached out to their schools, there's a program called IJAG.
Oh, it's a great program.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're doing great things in the classrooms, really partnering with employers. So I think there's a lot we could do if we all just lift a little bit, take a little bit of the burden on ourselves and equip these teachers and these educators on what we need.
Yeah.
So, well, I thank you for what you've done to just roll your sleeves up and get in and get a little bit dirty and figure this out. I'll ask my final question. If you're asked to continue this work and dig even deeper, will you say yes?
Well, I guess my short answer would be yes. And I think that I would also come with a few more questions this time, and hopefully add some input of, who could be on that next committee, who's involved in that group. And once again, I would really push to have the smartest people around the table, no matter, once again, what party they're from, what group they're from, who they represent. Get the smartest people around the table and then try and come up with a solution. Once again, not a solution maybe everyone would just 100% love, but that's how you get things accomplished. And
compromise.
Compromise and respectful compromise, right? So I feel like there's a lot of things to accomplish in this great state. You talk about the session starting soon and what's on their agenda, and you hear a lot about property taxes and all these things. And, I would just throw out the idea that from a business perspective, I constantly, but especially every year, so it's almost Christmas, and I will do what I normally do. I send out an email to my officer group, which has really grown, all our department leaders, and talk about goals for 2026.
Yep.
I want to know their individual goals, and then I want everyone to hear my goals, and then we're going to put those together and prioritize what we're going to do so that at the end of 2026, we'll have checked off the top 5, 6, 7 things that we got done. There'll be a couple, maybe it didn't work out for various reasons. Do they go on the next year? Do we not want to do them? But it's really important to check off the top priority things in any business and any company. The state needs to look at that too. We've got some issues. If it's water issues in the state, if it's the rate of cancer in the state, I could go on with other things.
Yep.
I think these are some of the priorities that need to be tackled. And once again, property taxes are very important. We can work on that too, but let's not leave out some of the things that honestly affect everyone in this state. So to me, that's really important.
That is, especially our first episode of the new year. You give me some hope and some tasks that I need to do. I need to set those goals and get myself positioned for 2026. I wish you all the best as you grow and expand at Fareway. And I look forward to seeing what the legislature does with the report that you guys worked so hard to put together.
Well, once again, very blessed to have a great committee, and once again, blessed to live in this great state. So thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much. I hope you come back.
Will do.
Thank you for tuning in to Made in Iowa. Subscribe, like, and share wherever you listen. Catch episodes weekly from the Iowa Everywhere studio on the BPC streaming network.